Morning, our special council meeting to hear our budget submissions for the 2019-2020 budget. Before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. They hold the memories and tradition of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We've got some apologies and requests for leave of absence. I've got Councillor Speedy on medical leave and Councillor Lowe is an apology for this meeting. 4 declarations under the Act, Regulation, Codes of and all local laws, and so I'm going to hand over to Officer Klein. So our CEO is at the Australian Local Government Conference, so we've got Officer Klein acting in his place today.
Thank you. For audio, video and still image recording of council meetings, persons are reminded that council's meeting procedure local laws prohibit the use of audio, video or still image recording devices unless prior approval has been given by the chairperson or by council.
And on to item 6, which is Officers' Report for Determination and requests to be heard by our submitters. We've got 3 this morning, so I'd like to welcome Hockey up to the stage. So I'll remind everyone again, this is being live streamed. Your face won't be seen, but your voice will be. But at any time you want to turn that off, please just let us know and we'll turn that off. Thanks, Kyle.
Okay, thank you guys. Just to start off with, I'll introduce myself. My name's Kyle Brett and I'm the president of the Wodonga Hockey Club. I'm also a life member of the club as well.
Dawn George, also a life member of Wodonga Hockey.
So just before I start, I apologise in advance. I do have a bit of hay fever. And so the fact I need to clear my throat probably makes it even worse given it's been live streamed as well. So I apologise in advance for that one if I have to clear the throat. To commence on what I want to do is actually offer my thanks in particular to the Department of Sport, the Council Sport and Recreation team, Leona Edwards and Ryan McNamara in particular, who have been invaluable in their guidance and assistance with our club to this point. And so I'd just like to acknowledge and thank their fantastic effort in supporting us to get to this stage. So firstly, thank you guys for your time. It's greatly appreciated. Today we ask the council for their support for the Wodonga Hockey Club, its 250 members, its players, its parents and its supporters. Support for the local hockey community, its 1,300 participants across Wodonga, Albury, Beechworth, Wangaratta and Cora, and its support for the neighbourhood of Melrose, which includes Berrily Park. We believe we have a compelling case as to why the council should fully support this budget submission, and by doing so, demonstrate their ongoing support for the community-based sporting clubs such as the Wodonga Hockey Club. Now, you recently would have received in a pack supplementary information, so we will basically be going through that. So again, to touch on the submission once again, I, Kyle Bretton, President of the Wodonga Hockey Club, respectfully submits a request to alter the exhibited draft 2019-20 budget to include the amount of $300,000 for council's contribution to the proposed construction of the Wodonga Hockey Club Pavilion. This submission is in direct response to the federal government's contribution commitment of $500,000. With the assistance of the city officers, grant submissions to the state's Department of Sport and Rec will also be made once approval has been provided by the council. A co-contribution of $300,000 will be requested. The Wodonga Hockey Club will be contributing $200,000 to the build and fit out of the proposal. Just some background information of the club. The club was incorporated in 1987 and is a sporting organisation that believes sport is about fairness, equality, respect and dignity. We've even seen records that show that hockey has been played in the city of Wodonga as far back as 1912. So we have very much a long presence in this city. The club believes sport teaches individuals how to strive and to succeed, how to cope with success and disappointment, building community spirit by bringing people together with a shared vision. Our club is an inclusive, family-focused community organisation where everyone is able to participate in complete safety and enjoy all aspects of our sport, no matter of their gender, religion, sexual orientation, age, race, nationality, ethnic background, or even their ability. Everyone is welcome at the Wodonga Hockey Club. In 2012, we undertook a top-down review of the club's operations. From this review, key initiatives emerged to not only grow our club's participation levels, with a key focus on junior numbers in particular, but also to streamline the club's administration. In other words, make it easier for the club's volunteers. Reduced registration fees, the adoption of Fair Go Sport, increased social media profile, mutual reward in sponsorship, the creation of indoor hockey, and a more flexible member registration platform resulted as the review. Today, we consider ourselves a stronger, more inclusive, and more dynamic, community-minded sporting organisation. A number of initiatives were born out of the review. We were the first regional sporting club to adopt Fair Go Sport, a program designed to create a club that is safe, supportive, and inclusive of all. The club created the Border Indoor Hockey Competition, increasing the game's appeal and reaching new audiences. 160 junior and senior participants were registered in 2018-19. This is compared to 60 only 2 years ago. We have relevant modern policies and practices ensuring we are seen as a club of choice. They include child safety, code of conducts, social media, inclusion and diversity, and volunteering policies. Other key initiatives that were born from the review included unique registration events, such as we have a registration event here at the Cube. Smart social media, increased sponsorship across the board, member payment plans, and we've even gone into TV advertising. One key has been to move the club to a cashless club. We no longer deal in cash directly. All fees, registrations and such are all done online or by electronic payment.
The club is an active participant within the local community. We promote hockey within the local primary schools. At the Children's Fair, you'll have seen us with our all our colours and with our mascot, showing the kids there how to play hockey and asking them to join our club. We also participate in school holiday programs. We run charity events. We have raised money for Kangaloola, I think that's how you say it, the wildlife shelter. We had last year an inaugural mothers and daughters match. Now the mothers say they've let the daughters win. The daughters think otherwise. But the winner was Betty's Place, who received funds on the day, the Women's Refuge. We also raised money for the Cancer Council, the Call to Arms. Now this event is on Sunday at our club, so if you're bored and got nothing to do, come watch some good hockey. It's called the Dave Chandler Cup. Now Dave Chandler was a local prominent detective in Wodonga, and he was a valued member of our community and our club. And I'm a bit emotional. We celebrate his memorial there. Dave died of cancer, age 41. So this weekend we have a cup to commemorate. Had it some 18 years ago since Dave passed away. His son is actually playing in the Div 1 team this weekend, so that's delightful. We play another club in Albury called Magpies. So this weekend, one of their members, young fellow 37, been diagnosed with some terrible cancer, and we'll be supporting him on that day, all of our clubs. So we not only support ourselves, our own club, we support others and the community. I'm very proud of that.
Through the top down, we identified a lot of initiatives and we put most of them into place. However, one recommendation out of the review remains outstanding. That is to provide the Wodonga hockey community with a club pavilion from which we can support, spectate and cheer from. In fact, this has been a key objective of our club since inception, to have a home, to have a place to foster club culture. Now is the time for the Wodonga Hockey Club, and we respectfully ask for the support of this council to make our vision a reality. Hockey has an important role to play in the community and deserves equal support and recognition in line with other sporting codes. Over the last 12 months, the club has worked tirelessly and closely with sport, council sport and recreation officers, council planners, Hockey Albury Wodonga and Hockey Victoria on the proposal to ensure it will meet both current and future needs of the club as well as the surrounding community. That said, the proposal is still probably about 70% complete. It requires a review by the likes of the JWP in order to make it functional, complete and aesthetically appealing. We want the building not only to be a home, but one that we can be proud of. We've built a number of design features into the building. They include a community group space in which the club can hold 70 to 80% of its functions, but can also cater for the likes of the CWA, who are already expressing interest to call the place home. We want to have a space that schools can use, as well as the BMX, who are right next door to us. Excuse me. We want to have umpire change rooms built in that in particular are female friendly. We want to have first aid facilities or a room where we can take someone who's been injured playing through the sport into a space that is both private and acceptable to receive first aid. We also seek a committee space. At the moment, we may meet anywhere from a local pub to somebody's house to a business. We would like to place for a committee to be home. We also have other things built in, such as elevated spectator areas, window frontage, kitchen to service canteen and function areas, wheelchair access, disabled toilets and undercover spectator space.
So the benefits of our proposal to have a pavilion will be that it will be a home for us, essentially. It means it'll be inviting, it'll attract more players to hockey. It will service and retain the ones we've got. It will enhance our spectator comfort for parents and supporters. And, you know, we're all out there in the winter, in the cold and wet and the rain, so we're looking forward to that. It will increase the player and umpire comfort, as well as having functional change rooms and toilets. It'll be a venue where we can serve basic food for members, and it'll be a spot where we can offer greater sponsorship opportunities for those sponsors we have and for those in the future. So it'll be a base where the club can hold functions and create and foster our club spirit and culture. And as Carl said, a place for other community groups to use, and the CWA is one of those who may be interested in that. It'll be a place where we could stage tournaments for schools. In fact, we already do that down there at the moment. So it'll have facilities. A place where we could attract regional games. A place where we could attract state league games, which is the highest level played here in Albury Wodonga. We currently play with Canberra teams. And a place where we can display our club history, which is currently in the box in the corner, our trophies, our premiership flags, our memorabilia. We've now got 3 to 4 generations of players who are now playing, their kids are playing. On Saturday, I witnessed my daughter's little girl, my granddaughter, at 5 play her first game. She hasn't quite got the concept that it's a team game, because she was contesting all their own players. Then we've got the teenagers who last weekend some of them represented Albury Wodonga in Melbourne, and some of those will be selected in Victorian teams. Then we've got our Masters players, one of which is in Europe at the moment, playing for Australia in the Masters games. So these are the people we want for our future and a home for them.
In respect to the financials, as indicated, they are still quite preliminary. Building costs, however, are estimated to be about 1.1 million. Council planners under the preliminary drawings have indicated about 850,000. But a review quickly identifies there are still a number of items that are missing from the build. As I indicated earlier, the next stages really will be a review by the likes of JWP. Excuse me. We have also estimated that the cost to fit out could be anywhere between $100,000 and $150,000, depending on obviously the quality of the fixtures and features that we put into the building. From a project build funding, We currently have $500,000 promise from the federal government. We are seeking the $300,000 for the Wodonga City Council. As I mentioned earlier, I would also seek, with the approval and assistance of the Wodonga City Council, the applicable grants to the State Department of Sport and Recreation, who we've already engaged and commenced conversations with. The club will contribute anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 directly to the project build, with the remaining allocation, as indicated earlier, to the fit-out. Basically, what we are looking to match the federal contribution, dollar for dollar, between the club and the council. For a council investment of $300,000, the city gains a $1 million asset.
Just to interrupt, we've got a bit less than a minute.
No worries, thank you. Recently, you would also have received a video on a USB from us. I just remind you to draw you back to that attention, and that just shows and demonstrates the passion and desire of the club to see this proposal turn into a reality. In concluding, the construction of a hockey club or a hockey pavilion will provide real tangible benefits to both the club and the surrounding community. The Wodonga Hockey Club will be contributing up to $200,000 towards this project, a significant sum of money for a regional sporting organisation. The contributions reflects the club's determination to make the proposal a reality. The club was successful in achieving a federal commitment to the amount of $500,000. We are looking to lock in the recent federal funding by ensuring council co-contributions are in place. Preliminary buildings, as indicated, estimate a total project cost of around $1.1 million. So in concluding, we respectfully ask you consider our submission that while you, In concluding, we respectfully ask that as you consider our submission, you keep in mind the $200,000 the grant has raised to support this project, the $500,000 provided by the federal government in support of the proposal, the fact the city will obtain a $1 million asset for a $300,000 council contribution, the amount of hard work undertaken by the local hockey community to get to this point, and finally, that by supporting this submission, the council will be directly supporting the Wodonga Hockey Club, the local hockey community, as well as the surrounding Berrily Park neighbourhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Wodonga Hockey Club. And I'd also just like to say thanks very much for your very high standard of submission. You've certainly set the bar with all your comprehensive information. So, councillors, are there any clarifying questions that we'd like to ask? I just had one. I also caught up with Councillor Lowe last week because he was an apology to ask if he had any questions, and we both had the same question. So when we were watching the announcement for this, for the federal commitment, we didn't see the clause about council having to co-contribute. When was hockey made aware of this co-contribution that they were asking for their federal contribution?
It was never part of the federal promise. The co-contribution has really come about via work with the council itself and sport officers. As I said, when we originally designed the project, we had a lot of balls in the air, if you like, and said, you know, we obviously would be coming to the council and seeking a co-contribution. There's no doubt about that. You know, we're contributing a significant amount of money, you know, and we think it's only fair that from a council perspective, they also contribute to it. So that was our intent. And then, fortunately, through the lobbying, we are then able to gain the $500,000 promise from the federal. So that probably threw our timelines out a little bit in respect to when we probably would have been making a more formal submission or application to the council. But with $500,000 on the table, we obviously don't want that to go, and hence why we'll, you know, under some advice as well as our own view, we'd bring that forward, and hence why we make the budget submission now.
Great, thanks for that. So no other questions? Oh, yeah, thanks, Councillor Watson.
Cole, thank you very much. I'll repeat what Councillor Bennett said, is the submission is amazing and very in-depth and very thorough. Just one question with the work we spent on the surface and this, in the next 5 years, do you see, or 10 years, do you see any other major expense that you'd be seeking for the council or the community?
As you know, Councillor Watson, the club has been very supportive in the past of Barranduta Fields. We were actually one of the first clubs earmarked to move with Barranduta Fields but unfortunately back when, that the council were unsuccessful in obtaining those funds to do that. As a consequence of that, we had to work closely with our parent body, Hockey Albury Wodonga, and invest significantly in the infrastructure that we currently have there in regards to the surface. So there was in partnership with the council, which we're certainly very grateful, we were able to raise the funds and replace that ground. As soon as that surface was replaced, that basically meant that we were locked into to maximise the return and the investment on it by the council and Hockey Albury Wodonga. So we anticipate that we will be there for the next 10 to 15 years. From additional, we believe that going forward, we still have an urgent requirement for some upgrades in some change rooms. So what we anticipate though, and as I said, the costing's totally preliminary. If we find out that we're able to achieve a 1.1 or whatever it might be in sourcing, and we find that actually may exceed the building requirement, fingers crossed, then what we'd actually do is redirect that money into some very urgent, high priority change room updates, particularly around making them more female friendly, which is certainly lacking at the moment. So going forward, I would have thought I don't see any need for any further contribution from the council for probably 5, 6, 7, 10 years realistically, yeah. And I think one of the important things is that our club's worked hard to generate revenue streams and put revenue streams in, and hence why we're in this position that we can come and say we have $200,000 to commit to the project. Those revenue streams aren't going anywhere, and if anything, the pavilion will add to those revenue streams, which again means that going forward, it's less and less likely that the hockey community needs to come to the council. One thing I will say about the hockey community in particular is that we never come with an empty cap. We always come with a co-contribution. We're very big supporters in believing that, if you're serious about a project, you should come with some money in hand to support and reflect the seriousness of your endeavours.
Thank you, Wodonga Hockey Club.
Thank you.
And I'd like to welcome Charles Mitchell up to the podium. And Mr. Mitchell, I'll just remind you again, if at any point you want the live stream taken off, just let us know and we'll take it off.
Thank you. Morning, councillors and staff. Just introduce myself, Charles Mitchell, ex-employee with 10 years experience here at Wodonga City Council and as an asset manager, and over 20 years in local government and with a civil engineering degree. I suppose my concern with the council is the level of high rates that are currently being experienced and have been in the past. My interest came about when I started investigating the 18 million overcharging of the waste. So I'll just outline this. Wodonga management have been overcharged general rates for years and overcharged $80 million for waste services. Wodonga rates have been and continue to be one of the highest in Victoria. There are no significant economic reasons residents should pay excessively high rates, and therefore general rates should be reduced by at least 15% or approximately $300 for the average ratepayer. Wodonga has significant economic advantages, and it's a nice place to live, but which means the general rate should be lower. It's got a small council area, small footprint, so there's huge advantages with low freight and transportation costs. This council is blessed with young and great infrastructure, but it's only a very small amount when you compare it to other councils. It's a quarter of the size and hence a quarter of the cost to maintain. It's very young and it's in its early stages, so it doesn't need a lot of council funding to repair and replace it. So as I say, low maintenance costs. It's got a very good competitive market in terms of goods and services, very competitive in this area because we've got Wodonga and Albury together combined, make a great cheap for contractors. Therefore, I'm suggesting that the general ratepayers should be insisting on a rate freeze for at least 5 years, or a reduction in rates of about $300, or about 15%. So the points are $18 million of waste overcharging, the Ombudsman's report in 2018. Wodonga rates are approximately $200 to $400 dearer than other equivalent councils. I have concerns on that it's one of the highest rating councils for a regional council. Figures just recently I crunched places it in the top rate charging councils in Victoria. Whilst there's some disparity between Albury and Wodonga in terms of services provided, these rates in Wodonga are 40% higher than Albury. My other concern is the high cost of staff turnover, 40% in the last 3 years. In the last year, on the state government reporting, it was 16.2%. It's extraordinarily high, and I'm surprised the government departments at the state level haven't investigated the council. The recommendation, as I say, is a 15% reduction in rates, or $300 per average ratepayer, a focus on core services, or a rate freeze for 5 years. The other recommendation is an efficient and effective service by investigating organisational efficiency savings. Define and price graded service levels in accordance with community endorsement. What I'm saying there is price your services, grade them, and then ask the community what they wish to pay for. And as I would like to stress, the trident of good ethical government is honesty, transparency and integrity. And given the last couple of years of high rates and overcharging with the waste levy and bullying and harassment that I know of, with 5 women that have come to me and I have spoken to in the past, I won't release their stories, but that is of serious concern to me and something that I wish management to address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mitchell. Councillor, any clarifying questions? Yes, Ms Hall.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you for your comments. Just a question. Where did you source your information from regarding the rates?
As you know, the state government reporting information is there. It's a little bit aged, but I've crunched some recent data and shows that Wodonga is still, it's the 5th, as I calculated, highest general rate charging council. That's different to your figures because you've included the waste levy drop, so that's painted a more favourable picture, but it's not the financial index that the state government reports and the local government has agreed on. I've used that index.
Officer Klein?
Just to clarify, the state government reporting on the Know Your Council website, where it has the rates information, it's rates and charges, so it includes rates and waste charges, which is why we've included those numbers in our calculations.
Yes, but they're kept separate because once you put 2 indicators together, you muddy the waters and you don't provide clear, transparent information. That's why they're separated. Waste is separate to general rates, and that's why the indicator is there to give the public a better indication of the change in general rates. And the general rates makes up just under 90% of the overall total rates. So it's a significant component and needs to be separated.
Perhaps you need to clarify with AGO if those numbers include waste.
Any other councillors, any clarifying questions? Councillor Watson?
Thanks, Mr Mitchell, for coming and putting your proposition and your case to us. But one thing we can't take into account today is the bullying aspect of it. This is new information that you brought to us, so we can't bring that into this. That's something we'd have to take up with you, but not in this form.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Mildren.
Thank you. Just, can you give some clarification as to how you've reached the $300 figure or the 5-year rate freeze? How have you reached that number?
Okay. When you compare this council to other regional councils, there's a disparity between $200 and $400. When you look at government reports, that was in 2015 and one in 2017-18, they showed Wodonga Council as one of the very sustainable councils, one that wasn't going to be impacted by the rate capping, and one that's a very viable council. And I think it's got so many economic advantages. It should be in the moderate range and at the lower level of that moderate range. And 15% of the average rate charge is about $300. That's how I calculated those figures.
Thanks, Charles. You've obviously looked at the current budget.
Yes.
Have you looked at that with a view of where the 15% or the $300 per ratepayer would cover the cost that you're talking about reducing the budget by?
So this goes back to my point about graded levels of service and organisational efficiencies. I'm not an economic analysis. I'm not doing an economic analysis of where council puts its services, but I think that needs to be reviewed, and also look at the efficiencies within the council. You've got some great staff there, but I think there's a need in every organisation to review its efficiencies and how effective it is in delivering what services the public actually want. And I know the council does good consultation, but I think that level of consultation needs to drill down and compare. If you wish to this service, this is how much it's going to cost you. Do you want a basic level or a gold-plated standard? And I think that's the discussion that hasn't been had with the community, and it would be good to have that discussion.
Would you agree, however, that the council is running extremely lean in this budget? You made mention yourself that the employee ratio is down 16%. The budget does reflect the reduction in those costs, along with various other reductions as well. Do you acknowledge that?
I'll just clarify that point. Maybe it didn't come across properly, but there was a staff turnover of 16.21%, and this is going back to the Know Your Council website, which is about a year out of date, or a year and a bit out of date. So over 3 years there's been a high turnover in staff, so that's a costly exercise for any organisation. So 40% of staff turnover, so you're having to retrain people, bring them up to speed, and there's that lag before they actually get to being productive. I think one of the efficiencies that can be looked into is better HR management, better employee management and support to ensure there's not a high staff turnover, because that's a cost that we can do without. When I say we, I keep referring to Wodonga because it was my life for 10 years.
Cool. No more questions? Cool. Thank you, Mr Mitchell.
Thank you.
And I'd like to welcome Wodonga Football and Sports Club, please. And again, I'll just remind you, at any point, if you want the live stream taken off, just let us know.
Firstly, good morning, everyone. Apologies in advance. I'm just come off a 12-hour night shift, so I'm a little bit bleary-eyed. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Mick Maythie. I'm Vice President of Wodonga Bulldogs Football and Netball Club. This is Richard Bence. He's the president of the club. And we'd just like to say in advance, thanks for letting us present our case forward today. Just a little bit of a backstory. 10 years ago, we had a new court put in at Martin Park there, and for one reason or another, it's severely cracked now. It's very slippery, so it's become quite dangerous. So what we're asking for today is $25,000 to help the replacement of the court. We have looked into repairing the court, but the information we've got from everyone is that you're just going to keep having to repair it and repair it and repair it, so you're better off ripping it up and starting again. So the club is in a reasonable financial situation to contribute with cash and in-kind donations. So we're going all right there. The court is used every weekend by Wodonga Bulldogs or Wodonga Saints. So there's 9 games there on the weekend. So, and it's a major concern to both leagues, evidenced by the letters of support we've got from the Ovens and Murray, the Umpires Association and the Toolangatta and District Football League. It's also may impact us financially because the Ovens and Murray have indicated to us that they'll be hesitant to grant us a fine because of the state of the court at the moment. So, yeah, we're missing out on revenue there as well. So, my biggest concern with the court is if Netball Victoria came and condemned the court, or one of our players slipped over or got injured on that court, where would we go? Where do we play then? We've got no other option. To not have your netball and football played at the same ground would be not only financially hard, but also emotionally hard because it feels a disconnect between the clubs. Wodonga Bulldogs prided itself on being a one club, so we're very inclusive as well. In addition to the Bulldogs and the Saints using the court, we also, this year we've got development teams, so we've got lots of junior kids coming through using the court, and also we've started the process of getting an all-abilities netball team going. I'm sure everyone's heard about the Wodonga Jets or the Wodonga Bulldogs all-abilities team now, so we're going down that path as well to try and get an all-abilities netball team, which would be great.
I might just throw in there that if you were to travel any night of the week down to Martin Park, you would see non-Wodonga Saints, non-Wodonga Bulldogs people utilising that court. So, and we have no control over who uses the court, and it's a community facility in essence, and we'd like to charge them, but we're happy enough with people just, there would be Sundays and any other non-training night, we'd have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people across the whole year utilising that court. So we kind of understand our responsibility is that it's not about necessarily match day, it's about having a facility that we have no control over who accesses to make sure it's actually a safe facility. So that's probably at a cost to us. And we've had that discussion with Nigel and Leona around, well, if there is an unfortunate circumstance, there's an accident, who bears that kind of responsibility? So we understand, probably additionally to what Mick's talking in his presentation, is we understand we have a responsibility as a major sporting organisation significant sporting organisation in Victoria to present a facility that's at the level and probably fitting in with kind of council's vision of having this as a significant sporting community, that we've got to get our facilities to the level. So we understand that the great work from the council in getting our change rooms to a level, grounds at a level. We've spent a fair bit of money this year, about $15,000, on making sure the viewing area around the outside of the court's at a level, and we're pretty concerned about the court itself not being at a level. So we unfortunately make comparisons, and there's probably anecdotally people are commenting about these Tolanga League clubs that have a better court surface than what we have at Martin Park. So apart from just that usage in formal competitions, there is a lot of outside usage on that court, and we understand clearly our responsibility in being able to not rely on council all the time, and we're actually financially in a position to be able to support that court development. So when we looked at the strategic plan moving forward, which is to have 2 court developments, so we're trying to make sure that we work with council and we develop a court that's at the standard that council would be happy with.
No, that's it. Thank you. Any
Thank
questions?
you for your presentation, councillors. Any clarifying questions? Councillor Mildred?
Thank you. What do you anticipate to be the total cost of bringing it to a standard that's acceptable?
At the level, it's going to cost $50,000, and that's probably a quote based on 2 or 3 months ago. So we're looking at our contribution being half of that. We understand clearly we need to move away from a sporting organisation that does things on the fly, which we like all sporting organisations, that's been your history, and we understand that part of the issue with the court was that we had a lot of in-kind work, and with that you have less control, I suppose, over the quality of the work. And our growth has been working closer with council. I think if there's councillors here who've had a longer journey, they would understand what I'm talking about there in terms of a sporting club's relationship, particularly our relationship. And we've got ourselves in a position to be able to, we think, do the right thing by all parties and produce a court that's of the standard. So, look, certainly it's an endless. We could go 100,000 and get a cement court and put a flexi pave on top of it. But it's what is the standard that we can play, ovens and Murray Nip, all that.
Councillor Watson?
Oh, thanks again for your presentation. What of that 25,000, would it be completely cash 25,000, or would it be a combination of that in kind as well? Just the split up of what your in kind would be?
At this point, we're looking to budget to be able to pay for most of that. Most of that 25,000 would be a cash contribution from the club. We have learnt that, as I said, the in-kind contribution, you have less control over the quality of the material that's used, and I think everyone understands what I'm saying there. But as much as you love engaging people in your community and helping, we've grown a little bit more than that, so we'd be looking to be able to fund nearly all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, councillors, we've got a recommendation on page 9, and I'd just like to change on the second sentence says, and Plastic Wise Wodonga. They weren't able to be with us this morning, so just crossing that one out. So just crossing out and Plastic Wise Wodonga. Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Watson, seconder. Councillor Hall. Councillor Watson, any comments?
No, actually, Matt.
All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. So, 7 urgent business, of which there is none. 8 confidential urgent business, none. So that just brings me to close the meeting. Thank you very much, and please come along to our next council meeting, which is next Monday night at 6 o'clock. Thank you.